Good morning all. I am Annamati from Chemistry Department at PSN College of Engineering and Technology. Today we are going about to see refractories from engineering materials topic. In this topic, what is meant by refractories? Any material which can withstand high temperature without softening or deforming. Importance in construction of metallurgy, second engineering, third one chemical industries. Next, introduction. Refractory is any material which can withstand high temperature without softening or suffering a deformation in shape. The main objectives are to confine heat, for example, to resist loss of heat. Second point, to resist abrasives and corrosion, action of molten metals, slags and gases at high temperatures without undergoing softening or distortion in shape. Uses are construction of the linings of the furnaces, tanks, converters, kilns, crucibles, ladles, etc. Manufacture of metals, that means ferrous or non-ferrous, cement, glass, ceramics, paper, steel, etc. Characteristics of refractories are: be infusible at the temperature to which it is liable to be exposed. Chemically inert towards corrosive action of gases, metallic liquids and slags. Resist the abrasive action of flue gas and flames. Be able to withstand the overlying load of structure at the operating temperature. No crack. Next one, no loss in size. Expand and contract uniformly with temperature rise and fall respectively. Classification of refractories are acid refractives, basic and neutral refractives. First one, acid refractives. It contains an acid material and it can be affected by basic materials. Important members of this group is alumina, silica gel, fire clay refractories. Next one, basic refractories. It contains a basic materials and can be affected by acid materials. For example, calcium oxide and magnesium oxide. Next, neutral refractories. It's made from weakly acid or basic materials like chromite, zirconia. Important members of this group are graphite, chromite, zirconia and carborundum refractories. Silicon carbide, that means. Next one, properties of refractories. There are 13 properties of refractories. First one, refractoriness, strength or refractoriness under load, dimensional stability, chemical inertness, thermal expansion, thermal conductivity, porosity, thermal spalling, resistance to abrasion or corrosion, electrical conductivity, heat capacity, texture, permeability. Properties of refractories. In the first one, we have to detail refractoriness, ability of a material to withstand the heat without appreciable deformation or softening under particular service condition. In general, measured as the softening or melting temperature of the material, as most of the common refractory materials are mixtures of metallic oxides, so they do not have a sharp fusion temperature. Next one, pyrometric cone test, that means Seeger cone test. The softening temperature of the refractive material are generally determined by using pyrometric cone test. It expressed in terms of pyrometric cone equivalent. That means softening temperature is greater than operating temperature. Pyrometric cone test, that means the refractiveness is usually determined by comparing the behavior of heat on cone of material to be tested with that of the series of Seeger cones of standard dimensions. Seeger cone melt or fuse at definite temperature when heated under standard conditions of 10 degrees Celsius per minute. So the temperature at which the fusion or softening of the test cone occurs is indicated by its apex touching the base. The PCE value of the given refractory is taken as the number of the standard cone which fuses along with the test cone. Seeger cone number and fusion temperature. For 1,110, number 2, 1,120, Number 3, 1140. Number 4, 1160 and 5, 1180. 6, 1200. 7, 1230 and 8, 250 and 9, 1280. Next properties are strength or refractives under load. Refractories used in industrial furnaces have invariably to withstand varying loads of the products being manufactured at high operating temperature. It is therefore essential that refractory materials must also possess high mechanical strength even at an operating temperature to bear the maximum possible load without breaking. Some refractories like fireclay, high alumina, brick softens gradually over the range of temperature, but under appreciable load they collapse far below their true fusion point as determined by Seeger cones. On the other hand, other refractories such as silica bricks softens over a relatively narrow range of temperature and exerts good load bearing characteristics close to their function points. RUL test. What does mean by RUL? Refractories under load test. That is performed by applying a constant load of 3.5 or 1.75 kg per centimeter square to the refractory specimen of size 5 cm square and 75 cm high and heating in a carbon resistance furnaces at a standard rate of 10 degrees Celsius per minute. The record of the height of the specimen versus temperature is made by a plot until the test piece deforms or collapses by 10%. The RUL is expressed as the temperature at which 10% deformation takes place. Next properties are dimensional stability. Resistance of a material to any volume changes which may occur on its exposure to high temperature over a prolonged time. These dimensional changes may be permanent, that is irreversible or reversible. Irreversible changes may result either in the contraction or expansion of a refractory. The permanent contraction is due to the formation of the refractory increasing amounts of liquid from the low fusible constituents of the refractory brick when it is subjected to a long period of soaking at the high temperature. Then the liquid gradually fills the pores of the refractory body, causing a high degree of vitrification and shrinkage. Next one, chemical inertness. A refractory should be selected that is chemically inert in use and does not form fusible products with slags, fuel ashes, furnace gases, etc. Usually, the environment in most furnaces are either acidic or basic. It is not recommended to employ acid refractory in contact with an alkaline, basic product or vice versa. Next one, thermal expansion. Solid materials on heating expands and on cooling it contracts. So, in the designing of the practical furnaces, a refractory material should have least possible thermal expansion as the expansion affects all dimensions. Example, length, area, volume of the body. Next properties are thermal conductivity. In industrial operations, refractory materials of both high thermal conductivity and low thermal conductivity are required depending upon the type of the furnaces. In most cases, furnaces is lined with refractories of low heat conductivities to reduce the heat losses to the outside by radiation. Otherwise, maintenance of high temperature inside furnaces will become difficult. Next one, thermal conductivity. A good heat conductivity of the refractory material is desirable for effective heat transmission in furnace construction. The densest and least porous brick have the highest thermal conductivity owing to the absence of air voids. On the other hand, in porous bricks, entrapped air in the pores act as a non-heat conducting material. For making porous refractory bricks, the refractory material is mixed with a liberal amount of carbonaceous material, then molded into bricks and burned. The carbonaceous material burns off, leaving behind minute voids, which enhances the insulting quality. Next one, porosity. All refractories contain pores either due to manufacturing methods or deliberately made by incorporating sawdust or cork during manufacture. Porosity is the ratio of its pore volume to the bulk volume, that is P equal to W minus D divided by W minus A into 100. In this case, W means weight of saturated specimen, D equal to weight of dry specimen, A equal to weight of saturated specimen submerged in water. Next one, porosity is an important property of refractory bricks because it affects many other characteristics. Example, chemical stability, strength, abrasion resistance and thermal conductivity. In a porous refractory, molten charge, slags, gases, etc. are likely to enter more easily to a greater depth and may react and reduces the life of the refractory material. Next one, porosity. Porosity decreases its strength, resistance to abrasions, resistance to corrosion or penetration by slags, gases, etc. Porosity increases its resistance to thermal spalling, that is thermal shock resistance. Next one, the densest and least porous brick have the highest thermal conductivity owing to the absence of air voids. In porous bricks, they entrap air in the pores, act as a non-heat conduct material. A good refractory in general should have low porosity. Next one, thermal spalling. Breaking, cracking, peeling off or fracturing of a refractory brick or block under high temperature. So, good refractory must show a good resistance to thermal spalling. Spalling is caused by rapid changes in temperature which causes uneven expansion and contraction within the mass of refractory, thereby leading to development of internal stresses and strains. Spalling may also be due to slag penetration into the refractory brick, thereby causing variation in the coefficient of expansion. Spalling can be decreased by using high porosity, low coefficient of expansion and good thermal conductivity of refractory bricks and avoiding sudden temperature changes by overfiring the refractories at high temperature for a sufficiently long time, whereby mineral inversion etc. takes place, making the material less susceptible to uneven expansion or contraction when heated. Ninth one, resistance to abrasion or erosion. Good refractory must show a good resistance to abrasion or erosions. Good refractory must show a good resistance to abrasion or erosion. Next property, electrical conductivity. Good refractory must show a low electrical conductivity. Low electrical conductivity. It except graphite. All other refractories are poor conductors of electricity. Except graphite, all other refractories are poor conductors of electricity. Heat capacity. Heat capacity of any substance depends on first one, thermal conductivity, specific heat, specific gravity. Next, 12th properties are texture. Coarse or light textured bricks, because of their large porosity, are light in weight and hence they are more resistant to sudden changes in temperature. However, their crushing strength is low. Such bricks are more susceptible to the action of abrasion and the corrosion. On the other hand, fine or dense texture bricks possesses low porosity and hence are light in weight. These are not so resistant to sudden changes in temperature. However, such bricks are less susceptible to action and corrosion. This is the properties of texture. Next one, permeability. Measure of rate of diffusion of gases, liquids and molten solids through a refractory. Permeability depends upon the size and number of connected pores. That the formula is permeability at temperature equal to 1 divided by viscosity of molten material. Thank you. In engineering materials, next topic is lubricants. Fluid in between moving parts in order to reduce the friction generated, heat and wear and tear of machine parts are called lubricants. This process of introducing lubricant is called lubrication. Functions of lubricants are reduces the frictional resistance, reduces wear and tear surface deformation, act as a coolant, provides protection against corrosion, act as a seal in some cases, improves the efficiency of the machine. Next, characteristics of lubricants. A good lubricating oil should have high boiling point, adequate viscosity, low freezing point, high oxidation resist, non-corrosive properties, good thermal stability. Types of lubrications. The first type is thick film or fluid film or hydrodynamic lubrication. Next one, thin film or boundary lubrication. Last one, extreme pressure lubrication. Thick film lubrication. This is also called hydrodynamic or fluid film lubrication. Two sliding metal surfaces are separated from each other by a thick film of fluid 1000 Armstrong thick. The coefficient of friction in such cases is as low as 0.001 to 0.03. Lubricants use hydrocarbon oils. It provides delicate instruments such as watches, clocks, light machines like sewing machines, scientific instruments, etc. In this picture, the boundary lubrications, that means thin film lubrication. This is also known as boundary lubrication. It is used for high load conditions. Very thin film of the lubricant is absorbed on the surface by physical or chemical forces or both. The coefficient of friction is 0.05 to 0.15. Lubricants used for boundary lubrication should have high viscosity index, resistance to heat and oxidation, good oiliness. Examples are organic oil, vegetable oil, graphite and MOS2 mineral oils, etc. Next, extreme pressure lubrication. This lubrication is for very high pressure, high temperature and high speed sliding surfaces. Extreme pressure additives are used along with lubricants. Chemicals used are compounds of chlorine, sulfur and phosphorus. These additives form solid surfaces films of Cl, S and P. High melting point metal compounds are good lubricants. Example, graphite is used for drawing wires made up of mild steel. Next, classification of lubricants. Classifications are three types. First one, liquid lubricants. Second one, semi-solid lubricants. And third one, and solid lubricants. Liquid lubricants examples, mineral oil, petroleum oil, vegetable oil, etc. Semi-solid lubricants examples are petroleum jellies. Solid lubricants are graphite, molybdenum, disulfide, etc. Then properties of lubricants. In this properties, first one, viscosity. It is a measure of a fluid's resistance to flow. Viscosity of the lubricating oil determines its performance under operating conditions. A low viscosity oil is thin and flows easily. A high viscosity oil is thick and flows slowly. As oil heats up, it becomes more viscous, becomes thin. Too low viscosity of the liquid greater than lubricant film cannot be maintained between the moving surfaces is greater than excessive wear. Too high viscosity of the liquid is greater than excessive friction. Selected lubricant must be proper viscous. Viscosity is usually expressed in centipoise or centistoke. Next, viscosity index. It is average decrease in viscosity of oil per degree rise in temperature between 1000 Fahrenheit and 2100 Fahrenheit. Viscosity of liquid decreases with increasing temperature. The rate at which viscosity of a lubricant changes with temperature is measured by a scale called viscosity index. Silicones, polyglycol ethers, diesters or triesters have high viscosity index. Next one, determination of viscosity index. How to find viscosity index? First, the viscosity of the oil under test is determined at 100 degree Fahrenheit and 210 degree Fahrenheit. Let it be U and V respectively. In this graph we have plot viscosity versus temperature. In this temperature, 1000 Fahrenheit are follows. Then first the viscosity of the oil under test is determined at 100 and 210 degree Fahrenheit. Let it be U and V respectively. Then viscosity of Pennsylvanian oil is determined. Let it be VH. Then viscosity of Gulf oil is determined. That is mean VL. Then the formula of viscosity index equal to VL minus U divided by VL minus VH into 100. VL means VI equal to 100 Pennsylvanian oils and VI equal to 0 naphthalenic base Gulf oils. Higher the VI, lesser is the variation of viscosity with change in temperature. Thus, a good lubricating oil should possess high viscosity index. Second one, iodine number. Iodine number is the number of grams equivalent of iodine to amount of ICL absorbed by 100 gram of oil. Each oil has its specific iodine number. So, iodine number determines the extent of contamination of oil. Low iodine number is desirable in oils. Some oils and their iodine numbers are given below. Iodine number I50. The oil is drying oil, for example, linseed oil, trunk oil, etc. And 100 to 150 iodine number have semi-drying oil. For example, castor oil, soya bean oil, etc. Greater than 100 iodine number have non-drying oil, for example, coconut oil, olive oil, etc. Third one, aniline point. Aniline point is the minimum temperature at which oil is miscible with equal amount of aniline. Aniline point is a measure of aromatic content of the lubricating oil. Low aniline point have high aromatic content which attacks rubber steels. High aniline point means low percentage age of hydrocarbons. It is desirable. Thus, aniline point is used as an indication of possible deterioration of rubber sealing, etc. How to determine aniline point? Aniline plus sample oil taken as equal is heated in a test tube and then homogeneous solution it cooled cloudiness. The temperature at which separation of the two phases aniline plus oil takes place in the aniline point. Next one, emulsion number. Emulsification is the property of water to get mixed with water easily. Emulsions can be oil in water emulsion or water in oil emulsion. A good lubricating oil should form such an emulsion with water which breaks easily. This property is called de-emulsification. The time in seconds in which a given volume of oil and water separates out in distinct layer is called steam demulsification number. A good lubricating oil should have lower the emulsification number. Quicker the oil separates out from the emulsion form, better is the lubricating oil. In cutting oils, the higher the emulsification number, better the oil is. This is because the emulsion acts as a coolant as well as lubricant. Fifth one, flash point and fire point. Flash point is the minimum temperature at which the lubricant vaporizes that ignite for a moment when tiny flame is brought near. Fire point is the minimum temperature at which the lubricant's vapor burn constantly for 5 seconds when tiny flame is brought near. Fire point equal to flash point plus 5 to 400 degrees Celsius. Both should be higher than the maximum temperature of country for transportation. In flash point, less than 140 degree Fahrenheit equal to flammable liquids. And if flash point greater than 140 degree Fahrenheit equal to combustible liquids. The flash and fire points are generally determined by using Penske-Martin's apparatus. Oil under examination is filled in the oil cup up to the mark and heated by the air bath by a burner. Stirrer is worked B divided by N test at a rate of about 1 to 2 reversible per second. Heat is applied so as to raise the oil temperature by about 5 C per minute. The temperature at which distinct flash appeared inside the oil cup is recorded as flash point. The heating is continued to record the fire point. Next one, draw point. Draw point is the temperature at which grease passes from the semi-solid to the liquid state. So, it determines the upper temperature limit for the applicability of grease. Next one, how to determine the draw point. Beaker is heated, then the temperature is raised. Grease sample passes from a semi-solid to a fluid state. Temperature at which its first drop falls from the opening is recorded as draw point. Next, cloud point and pour point. Cloud point is the temperature at which the lubricant becomes cloudy or hazy when cooled. Pour point is the temperature at which the lubricant just ceases to flow when cooled. Both indicates suitability of lubricant in cold condition and thus must be low. Pour point of wax can be lowered by de-waxing or adding suitable pour point depressant. Pour point of an oil can be lowered by lowering the viscosity of the oil, which is achieved by removing the viscous constant of the oil. Lubricant oils used in capillary feed system should have low cloud points, otherwise impurities will clog the capillary. A high pour point leads to the solidification of the lubricant that may cause jamming of the machine. Next one, neutralization point. Neutralization point determines acidity or alkalinity of oil. Acidity or acid value or acid number is milligrams of KOH, potassium hydroxide, required to neutralize acid in 1 gram of oil. Alkalinity or base value or base number is milligram of acid required to neutralize all bases in 1 gram oil. As neutralization point of oil increases,